Hey everybody, this is Alex Merced, head of DevRel at Dremio. We're going to be getting started with this presentation in just a moment. Just to give a minute for people to begin joining in. Okay, so again, we're going to get started in just a moment. Okay, so we're going to give it another minute to get started. Okay, and we will be getting started. Again, I'll give it one more minute for people to start joining in. Again, this is Alex Merced, and I want to just wish everyone a happy 2026, happy New Year's. It's exciting to, hit the ground running in this new year, talking about the lake house, talking about great technology, talking about all sorts of really cool things in this presentation. We're going to be talking about just sort of Dremio's architecture and sort of how it leads sort of an agentic AI experience. Okay, and sort of like, why is it so compelling? Like, why does it work so well? Not just sort of like, hey, it does these things, but sort of why does it do them well? Like, what's the architecture here that enables what's possible with Dremio? So let's get started with that. Again, this presentation is from raw speed to generative empowerment. Okay, an architectural look at Dremio's AI capabilities. Again, my name is Alex Merced, head of DevRel here at Dremio. And basically, I've been in the DevRel function for Dremio for now a little over 4 years. Okay, since 2021, where I've basically spent the last 4 years talking about data lakehouses and the technologies around data lakehouses, such as Apache Arrow, Apache Iceberg, Apache Polaris, Nessie, just the whole space in general. I'm going to speak at events like Data Day Texas, Data Council. I'll be actually speaking at Data Texas again later this month. OSACon, Nerdiarla in Spain, Overdev in Sweden, Confluence Current last year in New Orleans, Stream Natives Data Streaming Summit. So many different events. Dremio's Subsurface I've been at the last several years, since I work at Dremio. But I've also gotten to be a co-author or author of 3 different books: Apache Iceberg Definitive Guide, Apache Polaris, the Definitive Guide, and Architecting the Iceberg Lakehouse. Okay, if you head over to Dremio.com, you can get those first 2 books for free. And then also I like to code stuff. So I've coded little fun things like SensioDB, which was like a JavaScript in-process database, Pangolin catalog, actually a Lakehouse catalog I built over the last few weeks for just to do it. And then Dremio Frame Iceframe, which are some libraries to help working with Iceberg and Dremio in Python. So bottom line is I am a big Lakehouse nerd. Okay, and I love this stuff. So continuing on, let's talk about the Dremio platform, because at the end of the day, like, what you want for generative AI, for agentic analytics, is a platform sort of built on 3 layers. Okay, that the foundation, that first layer, is the speed layer. The idea is that you want to be able to access your data with performatively, be able to get that data fast. We're not talking about small data sets, we're talking about large data sets. We want to be able to access them quickly so we can get insights quickly. Okay, but at the end of the day, there's going to be things that you want to do to optimize, whether, like, if you ever use things like materialized views or cubes or caching layers. Oftentimes we implement these things manually, and that drives a lot of work. Okay, we're going to want to take that to the next level, and this is where the autonomous intelligence layer comes in, where basically a lot of that sort of tweaking and performance enhancing is done autonomously and for you, so self-driving performance. And then you need a layer that actually takes that data and gives you an interface, so that way you can interact with it in an agentic way, where I can just ask, hey, what is this quarter's sales? Or what are some insights into this, information that I need in order to make valuable business decisions to move my business forward? And that's where we get the generative intelligence layer, the layer that actually says, okay, hey, we have fast access to data, but let's actually make this usable. Let's actually make this something that the end user can benefit from, regardless of sort of their technical know-how or expertise. People who are experts in the business, but not necessarily experts in SQL. Okay, and it all starts, so let's go through each of these layers. So again, right now we're going to focus on that performance layer, and this is how Dremio is able to build that performance layer. And it all fundamentally is because of Apache Arrow. Apache Arrow is this open source in-memory format. So this is essentially how, when a piece of software loads data, okay, all that data is going to be loaded up into memory. Now, traditionally, how that data gets loaded into the computer's memory was handled by the software. Every piece of software did it differently. So in different pieces of software, like a database and a query engine and whatnot, would exchange information, there was a lot of copying. because since the data had to look different for different pieces of software, you'd have to copy it, then convert it into the different way it needs to look for the next piece of software. And this was a bottleneck because especially when you're talking about large data sets where now you're moving this large amount of data, then you got to convert this large amount of data into sort of a different format. And this would just sort of slow, especially when you're working between different languages, because different languages would implement different data structures differently. So benefits of using something like Apache Arrow that creates a standard for how that data looks like in memory is that one, when you move data between different processes, so in this case, we see an example of like a JVM and a Python process, so two different languages, which have different implementations for most data structures. If they use a common implementation for a common data structure, in this case, Arrow, uh, you can move the data much faster because you're taking that large amount of data and not having to you just move it. You just say, hey, okay, Python, you have access to it. You do what you need to do with it. And then again, you take it even further with something called Apache Arrow Flight. Even the way it moves between multiple computers over a network has a sort of zero copy approach where basically, hey, now I can move this data over the network and not have to do additional processing other than that transferring of the data, which allows data to move a lot faster, allows you to focus on doing the actual data processing and save time in all this sort of converting and reconverting of data. Okay, now Dremio made another contribution to the Apache Arrow project to further enhance it called Godiva. And basically what this does is that in Arrow, you have certain ways that you work with data, these expressions. So you're expressing something in, let's say, SQL. Okay, and what Godiva is doing is that instead of saying, okay, hey, let's just do this again and again in Java and sort of reprocessing the same sort of recompiling to the same bytecode, what it'll do is it uses LLVM to compile those repeated expressions into native code. Okay, and what does that mean? It's faster. Okay, that's basically what that means. So it makes a faster version of these repetitive sort of operations, so that way the computer has to do less work necessarily, again, moving through these different abstraction layers. Okay, so bottom line is that between these two things, the processing of the action, so between using Apache Arrow, Godiva, Apache Arrow Flight, you are processing and moving data much faster than you would be than when you traditionally sort of implement your own version of all these things across different types of software. Okay, so point is, it's going to be a lot faster. Now, good. We know we got performance. So Dremio's fast. Wonderful. But at the end of the day, there's going to be really large data sets and certain queries that maybe require a lot of processing. So again, you're not the processing piece, the moving the data piece between different processes and across networks is fast, but you're doing a lot of different sort of calculations across really large data sets. And regardless of how you optimize in-memory processing, that's going to take time. Okay, when you're processing the same sort of transformations across billions of records. Okay, so in that case, usually the technique to improve performance at this point is you caching, where you create sort of like, hey, how about if I know I'm going to do this same calculation over and over again, let me just save the results, so that way I can then use the pre-calculated results, and that's going to save me a lot of time. Usually you would have to kind of create your own cache through things like materialized views and sort of custom caching layers and things like that. That then would be difficult to maintain and could possibly break depending on how you built them. Dremio does all this for you, so you don't even have to think about it. These kind of things, these kind of practices are just being done for you under the hood automatically, whether it's through things like intelligent caching, the way iceberg tables are maintained by Dremio, or something called reflections, where Dremio is essentially creating these kind of materializations for you and managing them for you autonomously. So again, the pillars of this autonomous performance, again, Dremio sort of, again, all these things you don't even notice when you're using Dremio. You just notice that Dremio is fast. That's the beauty of it. Dremio's fundamental foundational layer, again, Apache Arrow base, fast. This autonomous performance layer, fast. These are things that you don't have to touch. They just happen. Whether it's like multi-layer caching. So again, Dremio caching results of queries so that we can reuse them if nothing has changed with the underlying data sets. Query planning caches, where we can reuse query plans for similar queries. So maybe the data set has changed, but we don't need to replan the whole query because it's the same structure of the query. Reducing planning overhead. The columnar cloud cache, which is going to say, hey, I'm accessing certain data from storage over and over again. Why am I going to send another API request to S3 and wait for that file to transfer all over again over the internet when I can just cache it on these local nodes, saving you time? So all these things are going to save you time in getting a result. Autonomous table optimization. If you're leveraging Dremio's catalog, Dremio's open catalog, which is powered by the open source technology Apache Polaris, anything in Dremio catalog, Dremio can autonomously optimize for you. So it'll do things like compaction, manifest rewriting. Bottom line is just it's going to take that table and clean it up for you. Okay, these are things that you know would automatically happen for you in a database or a data warehouse. Dremio gives you that experience on your data lake, on your data lake house, being like, hey, we're going to keep your tables nice and clean and nice and managed, so that way they just are fast and operational. And then we have our intelligent query acceleration, which is kind of like a mix of concepts like materialized views, BI cubes, which allow you to pre-compute work, very regular queries. Essentially, you're creating, that, hey, I have a BI dashboard that's going to run these 50 queries like 1,000 times a day. Okay, let me just make sure that there's a physical copy of those results, so I'm not recalculating those results 1,000 times over. Okay. But again, there might be different queries on that result set, so we want to make sure we have some sort of physical representation of it. And this is where reflection comes in. So Dremio will calculate these physical representations for you and figure out which ones you need for you. And again, these aren't just a straight up copy of result sets like the results cache. These are sort of tailored ones that might, only recreate certain columns, that might only that might partition and sort the data in a very particular way. Again, Dremio's engine figures all this stuff out. So the point is, you have a very fast processing engine, and you have all these mechanisms enhancing that engine that you never have to touch. The system is just fast. So great, now we've established that you have fast access to the data. Now that's great, and if you're someone who knows SQL and can write great SQL to access the data, at this point you're pretty happy. I can write SQL, get really fast access to my data. But nowadays, people are demanding more democratized access. They don't necessarily want to be SQL experts, or not everyone can be an SQL expert. And this is sort of where our next leap comes in, the generative intelligence layer, the layer that essentially says, hey, we're going to give you a way to access this data in a much easier way, where you can just ask questions and get answers. Okay, and this is going to include essentially lots of different layers of AI support. Okay. First, we're going to talk about Dremio's AI agent. So Dremio's UI. Okay, so if you're using Dremio Cloud or Dremio software, okay, you now have a built-in AI agent that you can ask. You can do all sorts of things with. One, you can ask a question saying, "Hey, what is this data?" So in this case, you see here, show me the total sales by product category for the last quarter and visualize it as a bar chart. You can ask that question. It'll figure out what the right query is, show you what the query is, run the query for you, and actually generate the chart for you right there in the UI. So you can do really quick ad hoc analytics without knowing a bit of SQL, but without knowing where the data is. Dremio will figure that out. Dremio will figure out which data you're looking for because of Dremio's semantic layer that gives it the context to figure out, hey, where the data you're looking for is. It's going to be able to generate the SQL for you with the AI agent and then validate it, and then run that SQL for you and give you a visualization that you can now say, hey, okay, now I have a good, clear idea of what the answer to my question is. Okay, that's just built right into the UI experience. And basically now that just allows you to grant, and again, it does it as the user who's logged in. So if a user doesn't have access to a particular data set, that data set is not part of the AI's thinking at all because it cannot see it because it's operating as the user who's logged in. So in this case, it's a secure AI agentic access. But there's even more. Okay. At the end of the day, not everyone's necessarily going to be using the Dremio UI. Okay. Some people are going to prefer other different clients. Like maybe they prefer using Claude. They prefer using ChatGPT. Maybe they have a custom, internal chat client that's being used. Well, you can bring all that Dremio functionality to those clients using Dremio's MCP server. You can connect to Dremio MCP server, and they're going to have access to all the same tools that the native Dremio AI agent has access to. Okay, to bring that experience to your Claude, your ChatGPT, etc. Some people like writing code. Some people like writing Python code. Okay, so a unofficial library that was recently developed is Dremio Frame. Okay, this is a Python library that gives you the full access to Dremio's features, Dremio's API, straight from Python. Okay, so basically it has ability and plus a bunch of other features. And one of the things that's built into it is another AI agent that can help you write your Dremio Frame code and help you interact with Dremio from your Python code. Okay, so you get agentic access from wherever you work. Okay, whether you're operating in the Dremio UI and working with Dremio and using Dremio's agent, or you're using Dremio's MCP server, leveraging your favorite chat client, or Dremio Frame, which has its own built-in agent, which can connect external MCP servers, so can leverage the Dremio MCP server as well, to then do things for you. Okay. But it's not just the ability to interface with Dremio via AI that's there. Dremio also has the ability for you to work with your data in ways that are powered by AI as well. So again, basically we're giving you all these layers to really give you a full, complete experience. So in this case, we have several different AI functions that allow you to work with your data. Whether, again, first I'll start off with classify. So in this case, you might have data, where you have a bunch of information in a structured table, and you would like to categorize the data in that table in different categories, like positive, negative, neutral. You can do AI classify, and it'll pass the data you give to a AI or an LLM, and then classify that data in one of several categories. Okay. AI generate, maybe you want to generate like a actual like structured record. Like let's say you have a bunch of PDFs sitting in your object storage. You can actually make a reference, say, hey, you know what? Read the PDFs in my object storage. And that's what you would use, like this list files function. Okay, you would use this list files function, which would allow you to list those PDFs in your object storage and say, hey, take these PDFs and take this particular, hey, I want to take this particular schema, okay, and extract that from this list of files. Okay, so basically what you're saying is like, hey, take every record in this table, which the list files would generate the table essentially, and say, okay, hey, generate a record. So for each PDF, generate a record with a schema, and they'll go in there and like read. So great for like data entry. So you're saying, hey, I have all these hand-filled records, and I would like to generate them into a structured data table. AI complete, you want to just generate like a summary for each record. So you have a record of structured data, but you would like a summary that summarizes the data in like a paragraph form. You can do that using AI complete. It'll again pass the data to the AI. The AI will, and then you can use your own model. So Dremio, when you're using Dremio Cloud, Dremio can provide you a hosted LLM wrapper, but you are allowed to also bring your own ChatGPT, your own Claude, your own Gemini, your own Bedrock over, so that way you're using your existing LLM. And then same thing with like software as AI agent. So again, you have this performative platform in Dremio that gives you great performance and provides you all these ways to interact with that data in an accessible way, leveraging AI. That gives you access not just to your structured data, but also allows you to leverage your unstructured data, as you see in these functions here. Okay, so again, and then you have other sort of AI-powered flourishes within the Dremio platform. So in the Dremio UI, you can actually, again, Dremio has a semantic layer, and that's one of the reasons why the AI agent is so effective, because it understands your data, because you can tag your data with information that gives context to the AI agent or to users on Dremio. You can generate a wiki to provide documentation on a data set, and you don't have to generate that stuff manually. You can use the AI to generate the wiki data, to generate the tags. So basically you can generate tags, and if it knows that, hey, there's PII data in this particular table, or what looks like PII data in this table, it can tag it PII, and then you can say, yes, add that tag. Okay, and these tags, one, will make it easier for users to be able to use Dremio's search functionality and be able to search for data sets that they have access to in Dremio. But then two, also give users the AI agent a better context to be able to better answer questions and discover which data sets are needed to answer certain questions much faster. So you get this, again, the semantic layer that just only which you can use AI to populate, that only further empowers the AI agent. On top of it, you might have queries that, occasionally don't run the way you expected them to run, or you're trying to figure out, what's wrong with it. Okay. In Dremio's jobs pane, there's an AI powered job explanations. You can click explain job, and what it'll do is it'll generate sort of a description of the job for you and say, okay, hey, here's what this job did. Here's how you can make it faster. Okay. So troubleshooting sort of, query improvement becomes much easier because you're not having to read through these, like you can read through the complex sort of like arrangements of operators that were run to do the job. Like that information is available to you, but you can also let the AI kind of summarize and get straight to the point for you, giving you sort of an enhanced ability to grow the power of your platform. So in summary, the Dremio Agentic Lakehouse gives you a great agentic experience. So you can get there day one. Like literally today, you can go sign up for Dremio for free. Okay, head over to dremio.com and sign up for a free 30-day trial. You can connect your data sets and immediately begin experiencing this. Like literally, even before you even touch the semantic layer, you can just connect your Postgres database, connect maybe your Iceberg catalog, connect whatever data sets you have, and immediately begin using generative AI queries. Like again, just saying, hey, what is this value from this table, and it'll begin answering your questions without you having to write any SQL. So you get that agentic experience from like in minutes, and that experience only gets better because Dremio will continue improving the performance through its autonomous intelligence layer. And then two, if you leverage the AI to kind of generate wikis and tags and curate your semantic layer, that's only going to get better. It's only going to get more effective. So it gives you sort of what you've been trying to build right away and allows you to continue to get better the more you use it and the more you embrace the platform and everything it gives you. And you don't have to believe me in all this. You can head over to dremio.com now. Okay, you should do that. You should head over to dremio.com now. Let me go find my little banner that can pop this up on there. Here we go. Again, head over to Dremio right now to try out the free trial, 30 days. Okay, dremio.com/get started. It's the first time I've live streamed in a while, so I forgot like where all the buttons are. Okay, and again, you can also follow me. Okay, head over to alexmerced.com and you can follow me on LinkedIn, whatnot, so you get all the updates on all this kind of stuff. But again, as a reminder, go try out the free trial at dremio.com/get started. Again, thank you for watching this live stream. Again, this live stream will be available also later on YouTube and all the different like platforms where this was live streamed too. Thank you all. Have a great day. Enjoy. I'll see you all around. Thank you so much, and ciao.